Hey everyone, this is Austin Schur here with We Write About Music, and today I'm speaking with Stephen Mugford. He has a brand new record out. It is called Palooza Beach, and I'm very excited to talk to him all about it. Stephen, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be here. How's it going? What's happening?
Absolutely. No, Austin, I appreciate it. It's great to be here and on this sunny summer day and happy to talk about Palooza Beach.
Awesome. Well, listen, this record's been out for a little bit now. It's a 2024 release. How do you feel since release day, fast forward to now? Like, how is this record sitting with you?
Well, so Palooza Beach is my first album. It was itself a byproduct of several years of work. So when I sort
Sure.
of think about the album, it's sort of more a span of several years as opposed to a
Yeah.
particular moment. Yeah, no, I find that I sort of in listening to it, I find that I'm still really excited about the tracks, and I remember exactly where I was when I wrote each song, and so it's a little bit of
Nice.
a memory time capsule for me, and
Sure.
it's been really fun to actually have new listeners get exposed to it and remind me, in a sense, of some of the things that I haven't been thinking about in a while as I'm working on new stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you're in an interesting situation because a lot of people will sit down maybe over the course of a month and write a record. But considering this one took a few years, I can assume that it's about a lot of different things. So, was it like you waiting for things to happen in your life in order to write the music or just pulling from the past?
I'd say probably more pulling from the past. I really just kind of entered into music relatively recently.
Okay.
So I've been around. For lots of decades, more than I probably wish to admit.
That's okay.
Uh,
No need to.
and for most of that time, I actually, well, musical, didn't think of myself as a musician. And it was only after a very brief and thankfully very benign health scare that I started thinking, what do I
Oh,
really
wow.
want to do with things? Do I want to take stock of this? And so that led me down a little bit of an Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole of
Sure.
starting to sort of experiment with music and then getting introduced to some amazing musicians and producer over at the Berklee School of Music here in Boston.
Nice.
And really, it's sort of a journey of sort of building the confidence to, put lyrics and melodies to thoughts that have been bouncing around in my head for a while. So it wasn't a month. Any
Right.
given song is relatively short, but the actual process of sort of getting it down and getting engaged with the musicians and then producing it and mixing it and releasing it, uh, all new stuff for me, and it was you know, an incredible journey.
Nice. I mean, considering this is sort of your first foray into music, I have to imagine that you were musically inclined before. You didn't just kind of pick up a guitar or whatever and get going. Yeah. So like what did that journey
Yeah.
look like for
Well,
you?
if you ask my brothers and sister when I was growing up, they were always telling me to shut up. On long road
Sure.
trips, I would sort of put my head against the glass of the station wagon going down the
Yeah.
highway, and you can hear the hum of the tires
Yeah,
create
yeah.
tone, and I was always sort of harmonizing with these tones and sort of
That's
creating
cool.
syncopated rhythms with the windshield wipers and promptly getting punched in the shoulder to shut up. It's always, I think for me, it's been a natural extension of me since I can ever remember, right? It's a prism through
Yeah,
which I experience and think about the world. Um, but sort of in terms of musical literacy, I really didn't spend a lot. I gave up on it too early as a kid,
sure.
to be totally frank. In part, I think because it sort of came so naturally, I wasn't sort of constrained by it in terms of being able to experiment and sing and all that sort of stuff. And it was really only again recently that I sort of said, wait a minute, I got to put a little bit of discipline to this to sort of see where we can go, and
Yeah.
sort of started teaching myself more piano than guitar. It's a bit
Mhm.
more sort of visually clear to me how sort of things fit
I
together.
understand that. And listen, I think for anyone that listens to this record, it is without a doubt like decades spanning in sound. You have so much going on here. No, truly. And I like that because, I think you're a little bit older than I am, but my parents raised me on the classics. So I've always had this kind of like wide ranging, oh, I like this from the 60s and this from the
Yeah.
modern day, but you've done a great job of sort of compiling all these different sounds and tones and feelings into one record, which is such a beautiful thing to do. Do you feel that because you released this later in life, it kind of was like all my influences into one and then creating something original sounding?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think at some level we're all byproducts of what we've been exposed to.
Yeah,
And I grew up in the 70s.
sure.
So, what my sort of mother's milk was a lot of the acoustic kind of singer-songwriter stuff, probably a little less
Yeah,
the disco and funk, more the,
sure.
James Taylor and sort of Crosby, Stills and Nash kind of thing.
Yep. That
And
was
so
that
that
was
for me
on
is sort of at the
on in
root
the
of.
car all the time.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? So that sort of is foundational for me. And then as I sort of grew through the 80s, it sort of added a level of complexity and sort of
Yeah.
electricity to a lot of that. But at its core, it was still, at least the stuff I was listening to was still pretty, rooted in sort of that classic song form. But then, as you grow, you get exposed to different stuff. And I started sort
Yeah.
of digging into a little bit of funk, a lot of sort of big band stuff, right? If you sort of true
Hmm.
back to the sort of, there's a lot of horns on the
Yeah,
album. And I
absolutely.
just, again, I love this sort of the energy and sort of, burst of horns. And then later in life, I actually started getting exposed to a lot of Latin rhythms. And so if you
Nice.
listen to it, you'll sort of pick up on all of that. And
Hmm.
sometimes, hopefully, it works and it feels decade spanning and sort of genre spanning. Actually, I struggle when people say, well, what kind of music is it? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, it's sort of
Right.
mine.
No, that's what you know what? That's the perfect answer because I asked that question a lot. I'm like, give me the elevator pitch for the type of music
Yeah.
that you're making.
Yeah. Well, I would
But
say it's sort of the love
yeah,
child of sort of a singer-songwriter acoustic sensibility with a little bit of funk, a touch of
right.
jazz, and a splash of Latin rhythm.
But I think, and I fully agree with that. But I think nowadays, just like with music as a whole, people aren't just making rock music or pop music. Everything feels like it's like this amalgamation of everything. And maybe it's like the future of production and technology and where we're at. Like, you don't need to hire a big band to make these sounds or include them. It's just like if
Yeah.
you hear it in your head, you can somehow make it work on a
Well,
computer.
I think there's truth to that,
So,
right? There's been a great democratization, not only of distribution of music, but around access to sort of the tools and sounds to create it
absolutely.
itself. And I think for better or for worse, when you don't have to create music to conform to a pre-established template, for
Right.
marketing and distribution, the degrees of freedom, are much greater. The ability to find a niche audience that sort of resonates with it goes
I
up.
fully
So
agree.
it destroys the economics of the business, but
Sure. Oh, that's a whole
but
nother
it's
story.
really sort
Yeah,
of liberating and sort of inclusive in terms of the sounds that get created, I think, which is pretty awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah,
No, it is awesome. It allows you to really do what you want and hear that voice in your head and follow through on it and know that, oh, that's possible. I can do that.
right on.
What is Palooza Beach?
Well, so Palooza Beach is the title of the album. There's a song in the album called Palooza Beach, but Palooza Beach for me is a little bit of an imaginary place, right? It doesn't exist.
Sure.
And it's a little bit of a word that I kind of ended up banding around and creating with good friends of mine. One of the things I do, I play a lot of beach volleyball, and
Nice.
we're often sort of looking for the perfect beach, and we started referring to that quest
Sure.
as Palooza Beach. And what we found actually is kind of it didn't matter where you were if you were with, your family and friends, because that
Yeah.
was Palooza Beach. And so sort of it kind of transcended place and became kind of an idea. And so for me, that's what it is. It's this mythic sort of state of being,
Sure.
in a sense, more than a state or a place. The song itself actually riffs on the question of if you had to choose between sort of fame and fortune or a day on Palooza Beach, what would you pick? And I always found that sort of everyone's like, oh man, go with your friends, whatever.
Yeah.
That's easy to say, but like, really? And I think, for me, it's like, look, if
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
like whatever. That's the nice cookie, kind of fortune cookie answer. But
Absolutely.
um, look, I think it's not to say that fame and fortune and all that stuff wouldn't be cool, and I've been
Yeah.
blessed with some of that in my life. But if I had to choose and sort of say what's really important, if I'm going to sort of think back around sort of what I did or didn't do or miss, I suspect it will have been the equivalent of that sort of ethos of
Yeah.
Palooza Beach.
I love that. Again, considering that you wrote this in such a long span of time, what was the first song that was fully fleshed out and finished on this record?
The first song was "Not Gonna Let the Devil,"
Okay.
which I wrote for a good friend of mine who was fighting cancer.
Hmm.
And it was a terminal cancer diagnosis. And what struck me about his journey was the degree to which right? But like he didn't get to choose this. This wasn't like he wasn't like a lifelong smoker. He was a relatively young guy. He was like
Yeah,
35 or so at the time, two young kids. Um, but the grace with which he handled it, the sort of which he said, look, I got to deal with this, but how I deal with this, that's up to me, right? And he chose
sure.
not to sort of be angry or defensive or sort of whatever. He fought, but he was like, look, I'm not going to let it deprive me of how I want to live my life. And so I wrote the song for him. And I was fortunate to actually get it through. We actually rushed that through production. If you look at the release date on that song, it's
Oh,
actually probably about 6 or 8 months earlier than the whole album
well, okay.
because we had to rush it before he
Yeah,
died. We were able
yeah,
to get it to him
makes
literally
sense.
on his deathbed, which was a thing.
Jeez.
And but it was amazing and special to do. What's neat about that track is I've had more people come up to me and say, because they don't know what it's exactly about, right? About
Yeah,
cancer. It's like, wow, that really captures the struggle I'm having with depression or alcohol addiction or sort of with the relationships with, my kids or my kids' relationships with, their
sure.
parents or whatever it is. And so it's really become a little bit of a mini anthem for, you can't choose what life throws at you, but you can
Hmm.
choose, how you deal with dancing with that. And
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, that song, every time I listen to that song, it grabs me. Actually, we just did an unplugged version of several songs from Palooza Beach,
Sweet.
which we're going to start releasing in a couple weeks, actually, of
Awesome.
which Not Gonna Let the Devil is one where it's just me and Claudio Ragazzi, who's the guitarist, just in a studio. It's gonna be nice.
That's amazing. I'm actually glad that you brought that up because, obviously you operate in name as a solo artist, but I wanted to talk about the actual recording process and production. Like who is behind you helping to create these sounds?
Yeah, so I've got on my little journey, I was introduced to a guy named John Escobar,
Okay.
he's an award-winning music engineer and producer. He teaches that at the Berklee School of Music
Nice.
in Boston, which is, one of the top, if not the top, sort of pop music schools in the world.
Yeah.
And so much to my surprise, he was like, "Oh, let's sort of collaborate and make music together." I was like, "Okay, sure," you know.
Sounds great. Let's do
Um,
it.
and so he's been really, I think, helping with a lot of certainly the engineering and sort of the mix and all that sort of stuff, but with the whole process. Because
Mhm.
without him, I think I wouldn't even know where to start. But he also has an incredible network of amazing musicians. So we brought
Yeah.
in the chief collaborators are me, John, and a guy named Claudio Ragazzi, who is he's an Emmy and Grammy Award winner. He's an amazing guitarist. And so what I generally do is, well, sort of, I'll have a concept for a song. I'll sort of get the basic melody and the basic arrangement down on a demo.
Sure.
And then I'll get together with John and Claudio and we'll sort of tear it down and build it back up and sort of reconstruct it and
That's awesome.
figure out sort of how to get the basic song structure in place. And then we start getting a little crazy and we tap into sort of this diaspora of session players. So on the latest album, we have like the most amazing brass section. We have live
Awesome.
violinists and cellists playing, and
Yeah.
it's sort of almost, well, it's really, really, really fun to do that. So we tend not to sort of go into studio, write a song, and record it. We'll sort of the actual process it take. We'll sort of go. I write it, then we sort of kind of rework it. We'll lay down a bass track, maybe we sort of bass drums and guitars. Then we'll start to layer in, the other instruments and then sort of mix it all down and see what we're
That's
left with.
awesome. Not to take anything away from you, but I the only reason I ask is because it's your first record. Like
Yeah.
how was your knowledge in terms of actually recording these songs beforehand? Because it feels like your Berkeley friend was sort of like the puppet master here and bringing all these people together. And it's
Yeah.
such an amazing thing to be like, listen, like, I haven't done this before. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. And just having that person who's so knowledgeable.
Well, I would say if you listen to the
Hmm.
demos I generally tried to do are where they start and where we end up isn't
Sure.
that far off, right? So the
Okay.
sort of the core of the arrangement and the sort of the rhythms and some of the actual sounds is generally sort of somewhere in there.
Okay.
So I say I got pretty proficient. I use uh, Logic
Sure.
Uh, the John uses Pro Tools, but I got pretty good at sort of Logic. Um, I think there's two things. One is John definitely brings the engine, like he just knows how to sort of it just like there's a level of sophistication that just,
Right. It's like speaking another language.
certainly not only another language, but sort of it's playing another instrument almost.
Yeah.
And um, and then he certainly knows the process for having done it. And having done it
Hmm.
now, I sort of suspect I could sort of cobble some of it together, but I would still need the engineering and all that sort of stuff.
Sure, sure.
But what Claudio in particular brings, he teaches musical scoring at
Okay.
Berkeley. So he does all these movies and things.
Yeah.
He just has a way of sort of thinking about the orchestration to capture the spirit of sort of what I was noodling with, but sort of bring it
Right.
to life. So I don't know. I wouldn't say, Puppet Master sort of feels a little bit too passive, but I would say it's sort of three collaborative forces working in
I love
concert,
that. That's so awesome.
which
I
has
mean, just
been
the amount of knowledge in that room
it's
is
nuts.
unbelievable. Yeah.
It's totally unreasonable that I should have access to this.
No,
It's
man, you
like
should be so lucky, but
unfair.
the final product is outstanding. And listen, it's like bringing you back 10 minutes ago or whatever, talking about, just technology and, clicking a button and you have a
Yeah.
violin, knowing that it was actual instruments just amplifies my entire experience because now I'm going to go back
Well,
and
yeah,
listen
if you listen to it,
again.
you'll see there's no MIDI in there.
Right.
Well, there's a little bit of MIDI, but like most of the sort of the elements you hear um, you know, are the actual instruments, which was really and
Sure.
actually, you can really hear the difference.
Yeah,
It's actually
absolutely.
candidly less clean, right? It's less good,
Yeah,
right?
but
It's
no,
the
but
old
I
sort of old
like the less
vinyl
clean.
versus CD thing. It's
Right.
actually,
I want to feel like I'm in the room. And that's what
yeah,
you've captured here. Because again, anyone can go on and put a patch in or click a button and add something in. But
yeah.
the live, raw, like intimacy of hearing these songs on a nice pair of headphones and knowing that that was happening and you
Yeah.
didn't just add something in that just it just amplifies the whole thing. So it's
Well,
like
I
another
will say,
reason.
Austin, one of the cool things about having those buttons is that you can kind of create a good working draft
Yeah, of
of the
course. I mean,
thing,
you have to test. Yeah, right.
but then I've been again lucky to have the time and access to the experts and the resources
Yeah.
to put it all in. But yeah, it's very cool.
Right. Maybe an impossible question here, but is there a song on this record that you maybe feel the most joy about, or the one that once it was finished, you were just like, finally, like this beauty is alive?
Well, I love all my children.
I
Uh,
know that's why it's hard. You can't pick.
I just love them differently. That's what I tell my daughters anyway. Uh, I look, I think "Easy to Love" for me was a song that it's another one of the ones that we did an unplugged set on.
Sure.
But it for me captured really the luckiest aspect of my life, which is the relationship I have with my wife.
Nice.
We've been married for 32 years, and you know, if you've been married or are in a long-term relationship, you realize that it isn't always sort of, milk and cookies.
Yeah.
But at some level, you start to realize that if you can love someone not only when times are good, but when times are bad, when they're being nice, but also when they're kind of being
Yeah.
a pain in the neck, like that's when you know you're really in love with something. And so yeah, I sat
Absolutely.
down to write that song for our 30th anniversary, and I was like, what am I saying? Oh, I love you so much. I love you like the stars. It was sort of all sort of platitudinous goop. I
Sure.
was like, what's I think that sort of the most powerful thing I can say is I love you even when I don't.
Hmm. No, that's very real.
There was a song, I forget the name of the song, but I remember coming across it in the 80s. It was like the key lyric was I don't like you, but I love you.
It
Uh,
sounds very
I
familiar.
don't like you,
Oh yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
love you. I don't always understand. I forget how it goes. But
Sure.
that lyric always struck me as a sort of a wonderful juxtaposition and a capturing of really what it feels like.
Right. Love that. I have a couple more questions for you. I
Shoot.
want to know, we just passed the halfway point of this year, and obviously you've had a ton of music come out, but what is the plan for the rest of the year? Know that the unplugged is happening.
Yep.
Anything else on the slate?
Well, we were lucky. So well, not lucky. We've been busy. We've
Sure.
luck is made. We actually over in the spring, no, sort of probably March, February timeframe, we did this unplugged set, which is just Claudio, a pianist named Sahili, and John actually played percussion on a
Nice.
cajon. So it's just the four of us, and we did those. We did four songs from the first album, and we did three or four others, which we'll release. So the at least the four from the old album, we're going to be releasing in an EP over the
Cool.
course of the next several months, starting in about a week or two. So that'll be really fun. It'll sort of give something a little fresh, freshening to the album. It's a different, same songs, different sound. We've also got album two mostly recorded at this point.
Sweet.
Well, all we have to do is back up vocals, and then mix it. That that's been a very cool process. Among other things, we went all the way down to Criteria Studios down in Miami,
Oh, cool.
which is like one of the,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
Russell Shoals kinds of places. And it was crazy to be down there on these in these studios. We took it down for about 4 days. And I think I did a bunch of this second album in the same room where the Eagles did Hotel California,
Wow.
Clapton did Layla, uh, there's a couple of others, but I don't know about that specific studio, but the Bee
Sure,
Gees were
sure.
in there, Gloria Estefan, sort of Julio
Damn.
Iglesias, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. It's just like
You could
you
feel
go
the
around like
magic in
all
the
these
air.
platinum records all over. I was
Right,
like, what the
right.
hell? I sort of
That's
definitely
inspiring.
I brought the musical average of the room down. But
No, stop.
but anyway, so we've recorded all of that. That's been, if anything, I'm look, you're always excited about your next project. I think I
Yeah,
grew a lot during the first project because it was my first album, and I am really excited about some of the stuff we're doing. It's fundamentally not dissimilar in its overall composition and
sure.
aspiration. But I think I'm a little bit more comfortable in my own skin as I'm doing it
Nice.
and as we're doing it. So I think it should, my hope is that it's even more compelling.
I'm sure it will be.
Yeah,
I'm
but
very
so anyway,
excited for the
that should come
future.
out. We'll start releasing singles right now. We're talking about releasing them in January.
Oh, cool.
Starting to release them in January, probably release the whole album sometime around May next year.
Awesome. Listen, my last question here is it's basically for anyone that's going to discover you from this interview or whatever it is. What is an opening message that you'd like to say to them before they listen to this record for the first time?
Wow, that's a big ask. I would say the my goal with the music that I write at some level is, I kind of have this notion of, I call it reflecting in tune. And, I just have been around a little while and experienced a fair things. And it's sort of whether it's therapy or if it's just sort of me trying to channel different experience and feelings. What I'm trying to do is, in a sense, try and be as naked, in a sense, as authentic as I can around sort of what
Yeah,
I'm feeling and why. And, my hope is that one sort of people enjoy the tune,
sure.
and the musicality and sort of craftsmanship that goes into it. But in addition to the tune, I'm really very sort of focused on the lyrics. I was a poetry major in
Nice.
college, and so I just love wordsmithing and sort of trying to capture things in metaphor, which I think is the most powerful force you can have going through the world, is to sort of kind of see things as sort of they are at a meta level. But um, so as I try and channel my emotions and experiences and sort of seek to get uh, naked, um, if others can sort of resonate with that, what a wonderful gift. If even if not with that, with the fact that sort of here you have this guy that's almost 60 years old, sort of starting on a new thing, talking about these sort of silly foibles and sort of all of that, you know, if anyone else could sort of feel inspired to sort of actually love their own skin a little bit more and sort of have the courage to share it with others, I think that would be the best legacy possible.
That was a fantastic answer. And I've heard a lot of answers to that question, truly. Stephen, I want to thank you seriously so much for taking the time. This was great. Before we wrap up, though, I want to plug everything once again. So, for everyone out there who didn't know, I'm speaking with Stephen Mugford. The record is called Palooza Beach. in our article and everywhere else, we will have the links so that you can listen, share, follow along. Obviously, stay tuned for more. There's more in the works. I feel that now is kind of the perfect time to listen to the first record and get ready for the next. And I thoroughly enjoyed my listen, and I'm gonna go back and listen knowing that everything was actually happening.
Yes, awesome. Well, Austin, I appreciate it. It's great to be on here, and this is a labor of love, and I love talking about it. So
Yeah, you
thanks for
should
your
be
time.
so proud of it. Seriously. Thank you so much again. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I hope to speak soon.
All right, thanks a
All
lot.
right, take care.
See
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye.